What if you could take that risk, make that change, reach that goal, live your best life? Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast, where we get together with amazing experts and everyday people who share challenges, encourage healing, and explore the possibilities that life has to offer. I'm your host, Gary Scott, and I'm excited that you're along for the ride. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast. And I'm super excited today because this is my first three-way. So this is going to be exciting. This is going to be fun. I'm having a little fun out the gate because the topic today is a little bit tough. It's a little bit challenging. It's extremely important, beyond important, especially today with all the craziness going on. So I want to introduce my two guests. I have Deborah Charman. Which one's Deborah?
That would be me.
And then I'm Brian. You can't point because we don't know where we are during the
Oh, well,
podcast.
that's a
Yeah,
good
you could
call.
be anywhere. And then her partner in crime is Brian Wardell. So welcome, you guys. Yay, that's
Thank you.
him.
Thank
That's
you.
the guy. Um, I know it. I know it looks like Ryan Reynolds, but it's not. All right, it's Brian Wardell. So just all you chicks, just chill. All right. Okay. So I'm gonna fire off Deborah's bio real quick. You know, like I said, we're having a little levity now, but we've got a serious topic. So, um, my introduction for Deborah Susan Sharman is a certified healthcare aide, certified suicide first aid, published author and philanthropist, teen suicide attempt survivor. The oldest of three was raised in a very rural farming area of Pennsylvania, USA, by extremely abusive parents. Deborah survived all dimensions of abuse, meaning emotional, physical, and spiritual. You can read her story and how she was determined to overcome the handicaps her parents created that repeatedly blocked her from a successful marriage and well deserved promotions in the working world. The book is available on Amazon. If you type in the full title, the book title is Spots on a Leopard. EMDR Saved My Life. So, again, welcome you guys. I know we had a little fun getting in here, and I think sometimes you have to take a tough topic and lighten it up a little bit because it's not a lot of fun. Um, Again, this is a What If You Could podcast. So, if I may, I only have start with one question. That's all they give me, and then they may make me shut up. So, I'm just going to ask my What If You Could question to both you guys, and I'll just start with Deborah. I mean, did you ever have a What If You Could? I mean, do you have a What If You Could moment for us you want to share?
Yes, absolutely. I think about the mothers against drunk driving and how successful they were against that villain drunk drivers. And what we want to do is we want to create little superstars, little superheroes with our program. Emerson said, when it's the darkest, you can see the stars. And the stars are the students ages 8 to 18 that take our program and learn how to recognize and cope with hopelessness. Hopelessness has been identified as the last domino that falls when a person finally decides they've had enough. And it is a decision. Most people think that suicide is either a cry for help or it is a selfish act, when indeed it is an act of desperation. They just want the pain to stop. And I stood on that threshold and I looked down that long, dark corridor with no light at the other end. And I took the step. Now I survived. They didn't think I was going to wake up, but I did. And it took me years. I was 19 the second time I tried to take my life and was very serious about it. So that's why we want to talk to 8-year-olds to 18-year-olds, because if the 8-year-olds of today become our superheroes and can help their peers, they can see the hopelessness before it gets too bad. I don't know if you heard about Wisconsin most recently. There was a shooting, and it was a female this time. It was a girl. So teen suicide is becoming teen homicide. So to your question, Gary, what if I could? I would give this program to every student ages 8 to 18 because in 2035, when those 8-year-olds graduate, suicide will be extinct. They will not even consider suicide as an option when they take our program. Now, when I decided to bring this out to the world, I realized that I was handicapped being by myself. And I thought the best way to introduce this to the world is a male female combination. So I needed a man that would dare to come forward and tell us about what his experience was. Now, Brian's experience is so profound in that he took 10 minutes to get to where he was going to take his own life, whereas mine was a spur of the moment, like most people are. But his story is most interesting. And that's why I'm working with him now. We met in 2020. We did our first our first video at that time, and we were asking for funding to create the workbooks that are now available on our website. So I would like Brian to just tell his story, just briefly, to explain the thought pattern and what a person really feels. Now, his attempt was 2019. Mine was 1972, so that was a long time ago. But his was 2019, so his is much more recent, and we can really talk to Brian and understand what his feelings were, what his mental state was, and how he got to make that decision. Brian?
Well,
Yeah.
hey, Brian. I want to real quick just introduce Brian Wardell, and I guess Brian, you and Deborah are partners in this endeavor, and so I need to ask you the same question. Uh, about this is the What If You Could podcast, and so what was your what if you could moment if you had one? If you don't mind sharing with us.
Well, my life has been a series of what if I coulds, most of them silly or selfish or whatever. So, a serious answer that I've come to now in my very serious middle age, yeah, is to do what we have really made the central focus of our work is let's render suicide extinct. Um, the it, as Deborah mentioned, my suicide attempt was in 2019, so it wasn't even the pandemic. We had no idea there was a pandemic coming, but I had just lost what I considered to be my only reason for living. And I thought, well, I'd struggled with anxiety and depression my entire life. And so my sense of self-worth, my value, my perceived value to the world had always been very tenuous. And as a young person, I was for some reason convinced that I was going to die young. And when I didn't die young, I wasn't sure how to handle it. Like, I didn't expect to live this long. What do I do? What do I want to be when I grow up? That was my depression lying to me from a very young age, convincing me that, why bother? You're gonna be dead young. You won't have time to do anything, meaningful. Um, so I eventually did find a purpose in looking after my elderly mother, and then when she was diagnosed with terminal cancer, I figured that was it. And it wasn't immediately that I decided, oh, that's it. I'm checking out. There was an up and down, like, oh, this is horrible. What am I going to do? And then times where I felt somewhat optimistic, like, hey, I think I'm going to be all right. But real up and down. And eventually it was December 3rd of 2019 that I woke up feeling particularly down. And over the course of the next 2 hours, having breakfast and coffee, I made the decision that the best thing for me to do would be to take my own life. That if I continued on, I would end up being a burden on other people, and they would resent me, and I would be miserable. So, the brave and noble thing to do would be to take my own life. And I decided I was going to go to a nearby train bridge that went over a major street, but there was still a wide shoulder because I didn't want to get in the way. I didn't want to make um, a big statement or anything like that. I wanted to disappear. If I could have just crawled into a hole and vanished, that would have been my ideal solution. But walked to this train bridge. I saw that there was people nearby where I wanted to do this, and so I tried to very casually skirt them because I was afraid that if they looked into my eyes, they would see what I meant to do, and that they would try to stop me, and that would fracture my very brittle resolve, and I wouldn't be able to go through with it. So I very intentionally skirted around them. And then at the when I came to that train bridge, I sent a text to a few people that I was close to, explaining that I was doing what I thought was right, and I'm sorry for the pain it would cause them, but I thought that they would come to understand in time that it was for the best. I walked out a little ways. I climbed up on the edge. I looked down. I was, like I say, by this highway, there's a wide dirt shoulder, and looked down and figured that was far enough, and I tipped myself over. That's pretty much the last thing I remember, except for flashes of memory and waking up in the hospital. So I mean, I was hurt very badly. I nearly bled to death, but I did survive. I'm here, and I've got a sympathy for people who are feeling, so down, an understanding, a perspective, and also a desire to help people avoid those worst things. I mean, having been down that road, now I have an understanding of the warning signs along the way. Because when I was having a tough time, I knew about the counseling, crisis lines. I knew about those things. I didn't think I needed them. Like so many people, in our society, I figured I'm fine. I'll be fine. I was not fine. I didn't realize how not fine I was. And by the time I made the decision that I was going to take my own life, I didn't want anybody to stop me. So prevention and what we want to do, this like pre-prevention, early prevention, way before you get there, we'd like to help you to recognize those warning signs, recognize them help in yourself or in other people. And then you can take those early steps to stop it before it comes down to that. I mean, that's really what we want to do primarily.
Yes.
Did you say that you are currently in a wheelchair?
Yes, that's right.
Are you in a wheelchair because of what happened?
Yes. Yeah, I broke both legs quite badly, and my lower right leg had to be amputated. So I have a prosthetic leg. I can walk around a little bit. I was over at a friend's place and was able to go up a flight of stairs, but I spend 99% of my time in a wheelchair.
Wow. Well, I feel for both of you. I know when my wife of 28 years died of cancer, she fought hard for 2 years. I don't
Oh,
even like
golly.
that term, fighting, but she worked very hard to not die of cancer. She was my everything. We got married very young, had two amazing boys, and I, went in the gun closet and put the old niner in there and was like, I want to be where she is. I don't want to be here. It's why,
Okay.
like you said, Brian. I mean, I don't want to be here. I'm better off not being here. The pain of being here is too much without her being here. And if it just wasn't for the bookshelf behind me and seeing the pictures of my boys that were all over this bookshelf and looking at my sons and saying, I can't. They lost their mom. I can't leave them without a dad. I got to figure this out, and that was 10 years ago this month, and it still isn't better. It doesn't get better. So I'm sorry that not only that you had to go there, but that you're carrying the burden, of what happened. I mean, it's a double tragedy, really. It's tough. I mean, I know you're fine, you're alive, you've got your chair and stuff, but still, I mean, that's really tough, brother. I'm sorry about that. That's wicked bad. Yeah,
I have been through it. Yeah, no doubt about it.
yeah,
But um, I eventually have come out much better. I mean, that brush with death, it gives you a certain perspective. And, to be honest, my mental health is better than it has been my entire adult life. I don't recommend a near death by suicide as a solution to your mental health problems, but you know,
yeah.
don't
Well,
cry for me,
depression's a
Argentina.
wicked thing. I mean, there's a lot of things that come from that. So, Deb, at what point, with all that you went through with the suicide attempts and the abuse and stuff like that, I mean, at what point did you go, I'm going to turn this around and I'm going to create this program? And at what point in your life did this happen for you?
Well, that was the EMDR therapy that I wrote about in my autobiography.
What
I
is
had
that? Wait,
been
wait, wait. Wait. What was that therapy?
EMDR. It
Okay, so
saved my life.
that's what's on the book there. At the end of the book,
Yes,
is EMDR.
correct.
Okay.
It stands for eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing. Say that 3 times fast.
Nah.
But
I can barely
no.
talk as it is, so I'll just let that go.
Well, the thing is, I have been to a lot of therapists from age 19, that man, that doctor, because when I woke up, I was really angry. And I was determined I was going to do it right. I was going to get out of that hospital and I was going to go do it right. And they knew that. They knew that's what was going on with me. He was wonderful. And he helped me to see that I had a right to live and I had a right to have a life and be happy. And so every now and then when I would get really bad, I would go to therapy. I would go to therapy and I would do talk therapy. And it would help. It would be like a Band-Aid. It would help me for a while, but then it always came back. And finally, I met this lady and she recommended this EMDR. And I'm telling you that it was for me, it was the best thing. And at one point, what happens when you go into a therapy of that nature is that you reach a point where you see how bad you really are. You recognize how damaged you really are. And that session, I walked in and I said to her, is it possible that we are trying to change the spots on the leopard here? Can I because I said, this stuff's been with me since infancy. I was starting to remember stuff that happened to me when I was a baby. And she looked at me and she said, Deborah, those spots are not yours. They were put on you, and we're going to take them off one by one. And that's what we started to do. Now, I had written my autobiography several times over my lifetime, from the time I was 19. And every time I would write it and I would get better, I'd rip it up or I'd burn it or I'd do something. And now I'm better, I'm gone. It's gone, right? All that baggage. But it always came back. It always came back. This time with EMDR, it did not come back. And what I will tell you is that when you think about suicide, it's called suicide ideation. And what happens is you create pathways in your neuroplasticity, which is your brain. And so it becomes a habitual behavior pattern in your head. And it will perpetuate because it's there. You've made this nice deep groove that your mind is very comfortable going to instead of dealing with your problems, right? You fantasize about how to get rid of yourself and your problems. So that is still there. I still have that, but it's way in the back now, way in the background. It's not up here anymore directing my life. And I have PTSD because of the trauma that my parents put me through. So I can be triggered. I can still be triggered. When it happens, I will suck back into myself. I go into a shell and I don't interact very well with other people when I'm triggered. But I never go to the suicide anymore. It's there. I could go to it if I wanted to. It's on the shelf. But I never go to it anymore because the EMDR therapy made the difference. Now, she told me to finish my book and get it published. And the very last line in my book is wait one more day. Because what helped me at the very end when I was going through the worst, I would write down everything, reasons why I did this. I would write my goodbye letters to all the people that I wanted to say goodbye to. I'd put everything in a big brown envelope and put it on the kitchen table. And I'd say, okay, God, if I feel this bad when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to go through with this. And you have to forgive me because you saw everything I went through. You felt and saw everything. So I don't have to tell him the details. He saw it all. Well, I get up in the morning and I feel better every time. So I rip it up. I'm never going to feel that bad again, you know. But the point is, the EMDR therapy healed me where I could now reach out to others with information I wish I would have had when I was a teenager. When I showed it to Brian, he said the same thing. If I'd had this, I would have never considered suicide. And I said, let's give this to the kids. If someone would have given this to me when I was 8, 9, 10 years old. Now, my grandson is 8 years old. He's not ready for the program. I have talked to him about it to the level that he's capable of understanding. But there are some 8 years old that are quite good. I mean, they're technology. They'll show you how to, do all sorts of things on the internet. Those are the people at age 8 that can take this program. And it's all intellectual, Gary. We're talking about the 5 stages of intellectual development because suicide is a decision. Ultimately, it's a decision. Emotions are pushing it, yes, but it's a decision. And what we're doing is we're teaching these students how to make a decision. And we're giving them a framework and a parameter to make those decisions. So hopelessness doesn't get a voice. Hopelessness doesn't get a turn to talk because they have their path and their process to make a decision. And our
So
superheroes.
are you creating are you are you focusing on the ambassadors to your superheroes to spread the word, or are you working with the children, or are you doing both? What?
Both.
Both.
Ideally, what we're hoping for is for communities to come together and work with their students in the communities and help these students. Everybody will benefit from this one way or another. The students that are having emotional difficulties will heal from this. They'll learn how to make decisions. The students that are already very healthy mentally and emotionally can be a help to the other students. Everybody wins. And Mothers Against Drunk Driving had it together. I mean, they started in 1980 in California. That's where they started. Today, actually, the statistic I saw was from 2022. They had reduced death of people ages 21 and younger by 83%.
That's pretty. That's huge. You know, I have a couple of guys that I've interviewed that are really big with soldiers with the PTSD, and like you said, you know, give it one more day, give it one more hour, whatever. I mean, their thing is don't close the door,
Yeah,
no matter what. Don't let them close the door. They go
yeah,
into a room, you know, they start getting their blues out or start holding a gun in a weird way. Just do not close the door. Don't let them close that door, right? Because they're in there by themselves. Um, but you know, today's world is so much different than even what it was 5 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago. You know, social media, this transgender movement. You know, kids the age you're dealing with are already have body issues and social issues and not feeling good enough issues. But now, I mean, not only is it like, oh, my boobs haven't shown up yet, or you know, I'm too short, or I've got acne, the girls don't like me. Now it's like I might be a different, you know, I might be a boy if I'm a girl and boy. And so, I mean, and social media beating you up and stuff like this. So, I mean, there's a whole nother level of crazy on top of what these kids are going through. I mean, how do you
absolutely.
deal with what's happening now?
Absolutely. And that's why we want to focus on the decision-making process. And that is what we want to do. And when I look at the different charities, for example, all of them talk about "Before You Decide" is a song that has been put out by a particular group in Florida, suicide prevention. And
What's the name of the song?
"Before You Decide."
Before You Decide. Okay.
And we have a song on our website, and it's called "Wait One More Day." It's at the bottom of our website. Our website is survivorsofhopelessness.com. And at the very bottom of that is our music video. And that is primarily geared towards adults, people who are feeling and going through these things. Now, Brian was 42 when he did his attempt. I was 19. But we want to reach everyone, but our first focus is students. Now, the program, it's all automated. It's on video. So you download the video, you download the workbook. The workbook is vital so that the student can handle the material and write on the pages, even draw pictures, whatever they want to do. And you can take it at your own pace. You don't have to sit down for a whole hour. And it's
Are you taking this to schools? Are you taking this to school districts? Is this something you're
yes,
trying to get done to assemblies, or
We
maybe
would
put
yes.
it
love
into the
to.
school curriculum, or
Oh,
are you
absolutely.
exposing this to schools?
Yes, and just like MAD, just like Mothers Against Drunk Driving, it takes time. It takes time for all of that. They have process and procedure before they bring on certain things, and you have to respect that. And it's we purposely made it so affordable. And the proceeds, it doubles as a fundraiser. The proceeds for the program goes towards the different charities and organizations that work with students. Here in Calgary, Alberta, which is where Brian and I live, there's an organization called Woods Homes, and they deal with children at risk. They deal with families going through difficult times. If there has been a suicide attempt, a teenager, the whole family is worked with. So we contribute money to them from our work.
Brian, did you want to jump in there on something?
Well, yes, to clarify, we want to have this in schools. We don't currently have our program in schools because the schools would have to they would have to accept it. It would have to pass their certification. And because we don't have child psychology or whatever credentials, that would be difficult. But it is something that we're working towards. So I just thought I would
Are
clarify
you
that.
guys, Brian, are you guys predominantly pushing this? Not pushing, I mean, are you predominantly getting this out in Canada, or have you brought it down to the States?
Both. It's in the States as well. I'm talking to people from Florida, from Michigan, Montana, California. You're in California, right?
Yeah.
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 So yeah, it's going to take time. It's going to, just like
Yeah.
when Mothers Against Drunk Driving first came out.
And
But what?
because our platform is mostly online. I mean, we're trying to get people wherever we can. We recorded a podcast with a fellow in India the other day.
Yes.
So, I mean, if our movement really takes root in India first, I mean, that would be pretty rad.
Well, I don't know what the numbers are in India, but I know the numbers here in America are really, 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 really horrifying. And
Yes.
it just seems to me, of course, nothing nothing gets done quickly in America. I don't know about Canada, but nothing gets done quickly. Our school system is
Same.
a complete mess. Um, Hopefully, we're going to get rid of the Department of Education and start making sense of our education system. And I mean, to me, this just seems like a no-brainer type of thing to bring into schools. Like you said, if Mothers Against Drunk Drivers can lower the death rate to students drinking and driving by 80%, um, our suicide epidemic is completely off the charts right now, and
I
it's not
know.
getting better because it's getting tougher on these kids, and
Yes.
there's no help by the parents. There's no help by the schools. I mean, these kids are getting their help from TikTok and Facebook and things like that, which is the wrong place. I don't know if you saw this or not, real quick, and I'll let you guys go. But there is a study that they did. I don't remember if it was TikTok or it was another. It was one of these social medias, and they proved how quickly they can get a child to commit suicide. Did you see this? What they did?
No.
No,
Where was this?
so based on your online searches and the things that you put, like, oh, I feel really bad today. Nobody likes me. Everybody hates me. Based on what you're posting on social media, right? They were able to use algorithms and piece together the most vulnerable kids. And then they started sending them stuff like girls being mean to them. And oh, you're right. You're worthless. And why are you even here? Stuff like this to these kids, and they were able to pinpoint the kids that were ready to commit suicide, and so they stopped it. Thank God, these people are completely sick and evil, but they needed to prove a point to show how easily these kids can be manipulated to this situation. So I mean, it's crucial that this stuff gets out there because the enemy is way stronger than we are.
Yes. And if I may say, our credential is experience. Once upon a time, experience was identified as a great teacher. I don't know what happened to that. because all the resources regarding and surrounding suicide prevention, the voice of experience is not there.
Where
And
what happened to that is attorneys. That's what happened to that because if you start practicing anything or giving advice to anybody and something goes sideways, you get sued. And so you have to go through a million accreditations in order to be legit and then you get insurance and then you get malpractice and then it's okay to be sued because now you have money to be sued. So the whole healthcare system is a complete mess, especially mental health. So I mean, Brian, you talk about it being an online thing. I mean, do you guys have any benefactors? Do you have any money that's helping you get this out? Is there any? I mean, you'd think someone would, with a bunch of dough, would get behind this and say, we gotta help these guys get exposed to the professionals that can help you get credibility so that you can push it out there.
well, if
Well,
you know of anybody like that, please pass our name along.
so far we have Deborah has been the bank roller to a certain, and an angel investor has helped us out somewhat, but never anybody with, as you say, a lot of dough. That
And you
would
know
be
what?
tremendous.
It's not about a lot of dough. What it's about is if we get the word out and people buy into this at $50, you buy the video, 3 copies of the workbook. There's a parent teacher workbook and there's a student workbook. And they are then buying into this and supporting it. And the bulk of that goes to supporting the video, keeping the website going, paying for the URL and the emails and things like that. But it also goes to the Woods Homes or whoever else is going to get involved. Yeah.
The challenge is that we're fighting TikTok and Facebook and Instagram and Google and YouTube. I mean, we're fighting those people who do not want, kids getting better. They want these kids hooked on this crap, and this crap is not good for the kids. And so they don't want you to help kids get better. It's a fact and it's sad.
That's
So
that's
you
no
need a
different.
benefactor.
That's no different than what Mothers Against Drunk Driving faced.
Huh?
No different at all.
Oh, I
And
get it. I get it.
proved
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
proved it can be done. And that's what I'm saying. We're going to do this.
Yeah.
Come on board, join us, teach your child this, prepare your child to help others, create your own little superhero.
So right now, what's your biggest way of exposing this program? How are you guys getting this out right now?
This way, podcast.
Podcast. Do I'm almost as big as Rogan, so this is gonna help a lot. Joe, if you're out there, brother, get these guys on. Come on, man. Me and Elon and Joe Rogan are super tight. So I'll
Oh,
try to I'll
really?
try to do no,
Excellent.
not at all. They don't even know who I am. But seriously, I mean, it just seems to me, I mean, it's an epidemic. I mean,
It
it
is.
It
literally is
is.
an epidemic. You're watching these children being convinced by social media that they were born the wrong people. Now, I
I
get there
know.
probably are people that were born maybe in the wrong suit. I get it. It probably, we're born with all sorts of different things that could happen to us.
Yeah.
However, I think to an extreme, though, they're pushing this agenda. And it's like I said, it's tough enough on kids. I mean, remember when we were 8, 9, 10, 11, 12,
I
13 years
remember.
old? It was wicked bad. People go, oh, I wish I'd go back to high school. I'm like, hell no, I don't want to go back to high school. It was tough. So these kids are fighting a real battle. And I just think there are well, I don't know of a lot of resources in schools. Parents don't want to touch the suicide issue with a 10-foot pole. Um, Teachers don't want to do it because they're worried about being sued. Of course, it's all about being sued in America. So, yeah, we've got to figure out a way to get more superheroes, get more ambassadors for you guys.
Yes,
It's because it's a crucial thing.
yes. I'm going to be talking to Angela Lee. She is the producer of Children's Lives Matter.
Who? Talk to who?
Angela Lee. She's the producer of a show called Children's Lives Matter, and it's the Thriving Women's Network and University. And I'm talking to her in January. And I'm hoping that we're going to get a group of people together if you'd like to be part of that. Like I said, this doubles as a fundraiser. So as a thank you for people who get involved and make this happen, there would be monetary thank you for that. We are not a nonprofit. We are for profit because I don't want to deal with the nonprofit issues. We want to be philanthropists. We want to use this program not only to save lives, but to support the other prevention tools that are out there and resources. I'm not saying that our program replaces that. What I'm saying is that it augments it because we bring in the voice of experience. We can point to this and that, and we can say, yes, that would have helped me if I'd had it sooner. If I
Well,
had,
and I also love how you're bringing in the kids because we all know that, you know, children and peer pressure and things like that is a really big deal.
big deal.
First of all, second of all, profit is not a four-letter word, people. You
That's
can
right.
make profit, okay? It's legal, all right? It's
Yes.
okay for people who help people to make a profit. I don't know where this whole oh they're evil because they make money thing came in, but it's like out there. But yeah,
It's a 6-letter
but
word if my
getting
math is right.
right, exactly, yeah. So, but getting children involved because there are a lot of really good kids out there, and I do believe we've got a next generation that's coming up that isn't like the one that just kind of left. You know, I think these 10 to 18-year-olds are a lot different than the 18 to 28-year-olds that just are completely lost. That poor generation, we've got a lot of work to do with those kids. So if we can get to those 8 to 18-year-olds like you're talking about, or 10 to 18-year-olds, get them working on that peer pressure, but in a good way, like they did with Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. Say, dude, don't drink and drive, you knucklehead, you know, and
Yeah,
dummies hanging from all over the place. But I mean,
yeah.
you know, they show car crashes, you know, with drunk drivers and what happens. I mean, but kids don't talk about suicide unless they do it on social media. And when they do it on social media, it works against them. It doesn't work to help them. So what type of do you have a social media preference right? I mean, presence right now?
Well, we did Facebook for a while, and we got a lot of traffic to our website at the time. We did not realize any buy-in from that. And so we realized then that we need to get out and talk about it, just the way mothers with drunk driving did. The villain in those days was drunk drivers. Now, they're still there today, but we do have a handle on them. But what they taught was get a designated driver before you go to the party. The kids need to be taught how to make decisions before the new villain, which is hopelessness, gets into their life. Because once you're hopeless, there is nothing left. And everybody who talks about their experience with suicide or depression, it's the hopelessness that is the final straw. And we had a child psychologist confirm that that is the last domino to fall before a person does make the decision and goes through the necessary procedure. And that's what Brian did. He made a decision and he hung on to that decision from his house all the way to that bridge. Now, I only had to hold on to it to the medicine cabinet, but he walked 10 minutes in the fresh air in December and was determined to do what he was going to do. That was a decision.
Right.
Yeah, and I wanted to say too that really our I think our course is good because we do focus on decision making and perspective and understanding that really, I mean, it's not simply early suicide prevention. It is helping teach children to make better decisions. And that could be things that are less immediately impactful as suicide. I mean, it could also involve smoking, drug use, sexual behavior, you
Yeah.
know, yeah, and drunk driving or, other rash decisions. The concept of wait one more day, um, not to make an emotional decision on the spot, is really something that is helpful in many aspects throughout your entire life. So if we can teach that early, then hopefully we'll have, our goal is to have a generation of better decision makers.
And render suicide extinct, because
That's the
suicide
big one.
will no longer be an option. They would never see it as an option.
Mhm. What do you see as, I mean, how are kids doing this? Is it access to drugs? Is it access to weapons? Is it access? I mean, how are these kids? Not a lot of kids will jump off a bridge, Bri. You got some big gonies, buddy. It takes a lot to jump off a freaking bridge. I mean, I just put a gun in my mouth. That was easy. You know what I'm saying? I just was too big of a wussy to pull the trigger. But jumping off a bridge,
Yeah.
you got to be like, I'm out of here.
Have you heard of Kevin Hines? He jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge and survived it.
Yeah, a lot of people have, but I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, I've seen people that have survived going over the Niagara Falls in a barrel, but I mean, I mean, I think those Vegas roads were so thrill seekers. But yeah, people have jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge and lived. That's a long ass fall,
Yeah.
and that water's freezing cold. If you survive, you're gonna have a broken leg and hypothermia. But so what's it like, Brian? If you don't mind, I mean, when you're on that bridge and you're gonna toss yourself, were you wanting a train to come by? Was it a train bridge you said, or just a
Yeah,
street bridge?
it was a train bridge. I wasn't intending to be hit by the train or anything, but simply I knew that that was a place that wasn't very far away. It was about a 10-minute walk from my house, and that it would be a fall that I expected would be sufficient distance to kill me. Um,
Which it did.
I I wanted something that was, my intention was that it would be pretty quick, wouldn't make a big mess to clean up, and would do the job pretty quickly. I didn't want to, you know, slit my wrists in the bathtub or anything and have people, finally discover me like that. I didn't want to do something like that. I don't have access to a firearm, or I may have attempted that. Not in the home, but would have gone somewhere, you know, sort of secluded, and then did it. You ask, how are children doing this? Certainly, in your case, I'm glad that you, and I wouldn't say wussed out, you were too much of a wuss to pull the trigger. Certainly, access to firearms, as I've read, um, really increases the risk of suicide, simply because it is very available. It's quick, and I mean, I talk about, um, jumping off a bridge. When you look out over the edge of the bridge, that's kind of like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire asking you, is that your final answer? Whereas a firearm is like the Jeopardy buzzer, one click and you're committed, pal.
Yeah, and I'm so afraid of heights. I'm not jumping off. I'm not jumping off a curb. But I just
Good.
I think to myself, I didn't write a note. And when I looked back later, I thought to myself, well, you didn't write a note because you really weren't going to do it. You really weren't going to do it. If you were going to do it, you would have wrote a note, or like you texted people,
Yeah.
um, y- you know, Deborah, did you write a note or did you put a manifesto together?
No, not at 19, I didn't. The day that, and I was serious. Like I said, when I woke up, I was really angry. I was really
So
angry.
you
I was
took
like, I
you
couldn't even
tried
do
to
that right.
you tried to overdose on pills
Correct.
that were in your parents' cabinet?
No, they were in mine. I was 19. I was living in an apartment,
Oh.
and we had parties there, and there was every drug, there were uppers, there were downers, there was acid, there was quaaludes, there was all the stuff.
Whoa, you had Quaaludes? Do you
Oh
still have any
yeah.
of those laying around? I'm just asking for a friend.
Yeah.
Are those
And
illegal in Canada like they are here?
I wasn't in Canada then. I was in Pennsylvania still.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
That's right, yeah. And I washed it all down with a bottle of vodka.
Ah, wow. So
Great.
you took you
Now,
what
in
was
my
you
mind,
took
that's
that
pretty
whole
hardcore.
combination of things with a bottle of vodka?
Yes,
Yeah, that should have done it.
it did. It
It
did pretty
almost
much.
did.
Like I said, they weren't sure that I'd wake up when they took me, and they pumped my stomach, but there wasn't as much in there as they hoped. And I remember twice, I came to twice when I was throwing up. And then the next time I came to, I was in the hospital room, and yeah, I was pretty angry.
Well, I'm really worried about our kids. I mean, I have between my new wife and myself, we have four kids. You know, the youngest is 24, I think. Aspen's 24. Um, and then Shona is like 34, and then we got a 31 and a 30. So they're kind of out of that area now, and they're pretty healthy kids. Have a grandson, heavily autistic 8-year-old grandson,
Boy.
and then a 2-year-old grandson. But I watch these kids, and I see the kids coming around that are friends of my friends that are in their 20s. And holy cow. I mean, you could see the issues on them. I mean, you could see, I mean, we just had an election in America,
Yes, we
and you
know.
could see kids like melting down from this election, like some evil demon's going to come and kill them, and they're wrapped in the fetal position, and they're talking about, well, I'm just going to kill myself because this guy's so horrible and so bad. And I'm thinking, where are you guys getting all this crazy talk from? This is complete madness, but it's so easy to manipulate these kids. I mean, you guys have a really uphill battle, and I think we need to get more help behind this. I mean, who is there a big suicide prevention company or place in Canada? Is there like someone who
Yeah, yeah, there's this, they just merged the Canadian Mental Health Association and the Center for Suicide Prevention had just merged. And we went, both Brian and I took the course for the first aid. So we have certified, it's on the back of my phone. I don't know if you can see that. It says suicide first aid. It's a green cross instead of it's a white cross on a green background. And when I was taking that course, we were at lunch, and I had already introduced myself and said that I thought the voice of, pardon me, the voice of experience was missing. And I said, the voice is not being heard. And the woman at the table with me for lunch said, and it never will be.
Yeah, I think what Brian said earlier is our real challenge. You know, when you're in that mess, like I was not going to call a suicide hotline. I was not going to call
No.
suicide prevention. I was going to put that gun to my head and blow my brains out because
Yeah.
I didn't give a shit and I didn't want to be here and I didn't want to be alive and no one was going to talk me out of it and I didn't care. Like I said, if it wasn't for those pictures of my boys, I just wouldn't be sitting here right now, plain and simple, you know. And so, you guys have the right idea. You have to get to them. It's like the fire department's a great concept, right? When a fire happens, you come and they call them and they put out the fire, right? But the problem is the fire's already started and all they're doing is trying to put it out. That doesn't work that way with suicide, right? I mean, once you pull that trigger or take those pills or whatever you do, it's too late. I mean, you've got to get
Yeah,
to these kids early, and the signs are everywhere. The
yes,
signs are everywhere. You cannot tell me that. I mean, it's got to be minimal 10% of the kids that you go, oh, I'm totally shocked that that happened, right? 90% of the time you go, totally saw that coming. That kid said this, that kid said that. You see all these mass shootings here in America. Every single one of those had red flags everywhere.
yeah,
Everywhere. The authorities, because children have more rights than adults here in this country now, because they've completely lost their mind. There's red flags on every one of these kids.
yeah,
Everyone. And
yeah. But
so
you know,
we need to get to them early, like you guys are trying to do.
yeah, and you know who didn't see the red flags is the parents.
No, the parents totally saw the red flag. The parent on most of these kids shooting. I'm sorry, Deborah. I don't mean to be mean and cut you off like that, but these parents called the authorities. These parents took guns away. These parents turned in their own children. I mean, most of these parents did everything. There was only a couple whack jobs who actually bought their kids guns when they knew the kids were like crazy. But the kid, it doesn't matter because the children have more rights in America than the parents or the police now. The police go there and you say, my son's a danger. All right, kid, are you a danger? No, officer, I'm not a danger. Well, he said he's not a danger, so we're not going to touch him. It's like, are you out of your minds? I mean, that's what's happening here.
Yeah,
And the same thing with suicide. I mean, it's like you see the signs of a kid who is really hurting and really in danger. And no one says anything. Even if the parents send them somewhere, where they send them to some stupid psychiatrist who's totally worthless, and just not all psychiatrists are worthless. I don't mean that, but I mean to this child. The child's like, I don't want to talk to you. But
yeah,
maybe they'll talk to their 13-year-old buddy, or maybe they'll talk to their 18-year-old buddy, or maybe they'll talk to their favorite teacher, right?
exactly.
And that's why what you guys are doing is so important. Is peer pressure is everything at that age. We all know that.
Yes. Yes, and I strongly believe this is going to come out. We're going to circle back, and when all these people come together, because I have a list, I'm making a list and I'm checking it twice. And
Thanks,
we'll be
Anna.
back to you, Gary, and we'll say, Gary, this is the date. This is the date we're launching. Are you with us? And then you can put in whatever it is you want to do to help us, and we'll discuss the details at the time. But
Well, you
it's
guys, you
coming.
guys need to reach out to RFK Jr. because he is going to be the
Yes,
new chief of health and human services, and that
yes,
man knows a little bit about these issues, right? And he
yes.
actually cares. I don't care if people hate him. I don't care if people say whatever they want to say about the dude. The dude's legit, and he actually wants to help people because our mental health system in your country and our country is really lacking. And I love what you guys are doing. It's so sad that you have to even be here doing it, you
Yes.
know. But
Oh, it's
but
great.
like they say, someone's got to do it.
That's
I
right.
mean, someone's got to do it. So you guys have been great. We just blew through this hour. I just want to recap a little bit. So the name of your organization is what?
Survivors of Hopelessness.com.
Survivorsofhopelessness.com. Well, we're going to put all your .coms and all your links to books and all your links to everything on the podcast. So we'll get all that because I don't want to miss some of this. The other thing you said is wait one more day,
That's
right?
right.
That's your guys' tagline.
That's the music video as well on the bottom of our website. The landing page at the very bottom is the music video. It's less than 3 minutes.
Okay.
And our motto, our
Yes.
slogan,
One more day.
our catchphrase,
Is
Wait one more day.
wait
wait
one
one
more
more
day.
day. I love it. You guys are amazing. I've got Deborah Charman. I've got Brian Waldell. Both suicide survivors. We got three of us on here, but I didn't go through what these guys went through, but I know a lot of people that do, soldiers with PTSD, but it's our children, man. I'll tell you what, these poor kids, I don't even know what's happening to the children right now. It's really, really bad. They have no one to turn to, and what you guys are doing is super, super important. So, like I
Thank
said,
you.
on the podcast, we're gonna have all your links, all your information. Brian, thank you for hopping on with us. I really appreciate it.
I'm very much appreciate you having me on the show, and of course having Deborah on the show too. She can speak for herself though.
She does. Can't shut her up. She does. She's passionate about this thing, man.
Good.
Well, you guys are great. We had some fun, which is not easy to do with such a tough topic. I love what you're doing, and I'm just so grateful you guys came on to share it. So listen, thank you for coming on the What If You Could podcast. And I think what if we could, I think we all agree is what if we could frickin' get rid of teen suicide and child suicide, soldier
Yes,
suicide, just all suicide because it's just life is good, man. It's not worth it.
that's right. We
I
all
love you
have the
guys.
right. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all you're doing. I really appreciate it. See you guys.
Thank you so much.
Look for
Thanks,
these
Gary.
two on the next upcoming podcast of What If You Could, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
All right, guys. Well, that wasn't that bad.
No,
fast.
I hope we weren't too hard on you, Gary.
You were very gentle. You remember for my first threesome, you were very gentle. I appreciate I appreciate
It's only weird the first time, Gary.
it.
You're experienced now.
Yeah, you Canadians are a lot of fun. Well, on a real serious note, though, I mean, I just don't know. I'm just so mad about this because there's so much stupid ass red tape, and there's so much money out there, and it's such a crucial issue. I mean, especially in America, shit. We have a school shooting, 3 times a week. Everyone just, all this hopes and prayers, and then they want to take your guns, and there's all this bullshit, and then nothing gets done. Everyone just moves along, right? And you look at the kid, like this trans kid. I mean, we're starting to see more and more trans kids shooting schools.
Yes.
Well, tell me what's wrong with that picture. I could tell you what's wrong with that picture. You've gotten in these kids' heads and you've screwed them up. We've got to get them out of these kids' heads
Yes.
and get them help, like with what you guys are doing. I'm
Yes.
ticked off about it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is when I was in high school, I don't know, if I had easy access to firearms, I might have done something drastic. Probably not, but I might have. I certainly had the thought before the Columbine shooting, because that happened, a couple of years after I was out of high school. But when I was in high school, I certainly, had fantasies about, killing my bullies.
Yeah.
And Brian was severely beaten at age 16 in school. This happened on the school grounds during school time.
Yeah,
Broken nose,
in
broken
gym class in the locker room.
And what happened to the kid?
Well, he got expelled. So there
That's it,
was
huh? Didn't get arrested, just gets expelled.
no. I mean, we got into a pushing and shoving match, and I mean, he caught me with a right hand that was just perfect and busted my nose and broke one of my teeth and all of that. But what I realized years later, when I kind of had more emotional maturity looking back, he was a bullied kid who thought that by picking on somebody weaker and less, even lower on the social totem pole than him, he could get some cachet with the other guys. I know that they were encouraging me. Oh, you should walk up and punch Andy in the face. Then people would think you were cool. Well, I didn't want those guys to think I was cool, but I think he did.
But we know that hurt people hurt people.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Right on.
the way
Oh
it
gosh,
is.
too bad we didn't have that on the show, but still, that's
Yeah, well, because we wanted to talk about hurt people hurt themselves, but yeah,
Yes.
hurt people
that's true.
hurt people. But
Well,
guys, you were awesome.
Thanks again for joining us on another episode of What If You Could podcast. Please subscribe, like, share, and give us any feedback. We'd love to hear it. And remember, if you can dream it, you can do it. See you next time.